Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Today we're talking about David Zaslav's phrase, "It's show business, it's not show friends." And it really points out that, no, they're not going to be allowing any non-merit oriented things to be happening at Warner Media. They can't afford it. They're not interested in it. They're already firing people left and right. They're canceling projects left and right. I just did a video. Warner Brothers is taking out the garbage. That was not his phrase. That was an analyst, a financial analyst phrase, explaining that, everything he's doing just shows they're going to be wiping out anything that doesn't work or fit with their strategy. We know this is from the playlist that I've been doing. This is like my, whatever it is, 31st video on the subject. They're doing layoffs. They're canceling content and projects that are even almost complete. And they're doing this to get the business into shape. They have challenges, and we're going to discuss those challenges. I came across a great article talking about some of the challenges they're facing and recent problems they had. It's not easy, and it's not going as well as it was supposed to go. Really not their fault. It's just kind of the business climate. But they're working on it. Additionally, did a video talking about how they're not selling in 2 years. There's a lot of fear and discussion about Warner Brothers Discovery selling the whole company, perhaps to Universal in 2 years. It's not going to happen. First of all, it can't happen for 2 years because of the reverse Morris Trust tax deal. That gets complicated, and I'm not your IRS accountant. But what I will say is, there's no sense for them to sell. Hollywood Reporter is talking about them selling, trying to put out a false narrative just to get people uncomfortable working with them. They're leftists, said Hollywood Reporter. And nothing wrong with leftists except to say, they're not always straight about what's going on. They have their own agenda. All right, let's get into the article. Before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. It's a huge help. The channel's been growing so well. So even adding one subscriber, just keeps building and building us. And I have my own superhero character, the first of several. I've launched comics universes before, so something is coming. I promise you that. I just am trying to build up the channel a little bit more. I want to get to a good 2,000 subscribers, and then we're going to hit it hard. Okay, so this is coming from Insider. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav faces 3 key challenges as financial headwinds disrupt his strategy and threaten his promises to Wall Street. Okay, these are the 3 main points. Warner Brothers Discovery faces huge integration issues while building its streaming super app for summer 2023. AT&T's rosy accounting led CEO David Zaslav to demand a big working capital adjustment in the merger. That the working capital adjustment is a tax treatment issue. It's basically it's negotiating a lower price, not a major lower price, but a lower price, and they got it. Core cable assets are still the profit engine, but Zaslav is currently dealing with Hollywood challenges. A lot of challenges with Hollywood because where Zaslav says, "Hey, it's show business, not show friends," that's not how Hollywood sees it. Hollywood sees it as, well, you're a studio, so you should just, particularly Warner Brothers, you should just keep letting us be Clint Eastwood and make Cry Macho, make projects and give us development budgets and throw money at us even for things we're not going to ever make and they won't be profitable. And no, Zaslav is not having any of that. Why? Because it's not good business. To be honest, I was listening to more of his interviews that he's had over the years. He's done some great interviews on CNBC, but also some great interviews where he's promoting and discussing their Discovery content for all their cable channels internationally, where they're trying to kind of promote to advertisers. So he's been at some serious business conferences. They're all on YouTube. You just search his name, David Zaslav interview, and there's tons of them. You get a lot of interesting insight that way. And the insight I got having done that is they're so serious about branding. The cable channels, the way cable channels are organized is to get a cable viewer to want to go to the Discovery Channel, to want to go to TLC. They have to know what they're going to get when they go to that cable channel. And you don't want to lose them once you get them. So it's about, as he describes it, cultivating super fans, people that are really passionate and interested in getting out of whatever it's his cooking channel or his golf channel. They want what they want, and it's got to be coherent, and it's got to be consistent, which leaves absolutely no room for nonsense content, meaning off-brand content. So if you've got a social agenda that you want to promote, you better be trying to do it on the social agenda channel, because otherwise they're not doing it. You're not going to take Batman and give him multiple identities and sexualities and a variety of other crazy things or creative things and allow that to get mixed up with his DC content and his DC brands. When it comes to whether it's Discovery or it comes to the ID channel where they have crime-solving things and stuff like that, or TLC, you're going to get what you expect from every brand that Warner Brothers Discovery controls. You're not going to get subversion of expectations. You will get exactly the opposite, because it's bad business. But it's not just me saying that. You'll hear him say themes like this in all of his interviews, almost all of them. And you'll hear him talk about how they want to nourish the consumer, and they want the consumer to feel like when they need that fix, to feel good about something they're interested in, they're passionate about, they will go to that channel. And that is what he's there to deliver. And as far as their success with doing this, Discovery, before they merged with Warner Media, is in over 210 countries. They have 10 to 12 specific branded channels. TLC, Discovery, whatever the heck it might be, in each of those countries. So they are life or dead, life or death serious about branding and about maintaining what is consistent and delivering for the super fans of those channels. As he describes it, it's so interesting to hear him talk about it. He said, there's 200 cable channels in the United States. And even though there's 200 channels, every user in a family, every household, everybody who goes to cable has like around 6 channels that they go to consistently. That's it. They don't go on the other 194 channels. So those are the super fans. Those are the people that go and get nourished, and they get what they want to get out of those channels, and they go there consistently. And that's what he's designed to do. That's what his entire management team is designed to do, is to hook in a super fan and then try to get as many hours as possible of them watching the content as they can. They're not there for any other purpose but to deliver nourishing content for the super fan of that branded channel, if you see what I'm saying. I'm going to start to share specific videos. I'll have to do more. There's so much work to do. I just want to really get across the point that they understand what fans want, and they don't look as brands as opportunity to spread some sort of social justice gospel. Ever, anywhere. They don't do that. They also are focused on international brands. So they consider all of the content they create to be an opportunity to distribute it internationally, because they're already in more than 210 countries. So what works for one brand in one area should be something that they can do in as many other countries as possible. So you're not going to have things that are, they'll be hyper localized when they do multiple languages and things, but they're not going to do something typically even in the US or the UK that will only work in the US or the UK. So you get where these guys are coming from. Okay, when former Discovery CEO David Zaslav, now CEO of Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, took over leadership of Warner Media in May, the box of TV and Hollywood crown jewels he inherited came with some ugly surprises. For one, Warner's former owner, AT&T, had made such a rosy projection about the business that Zaslav demanded a $1.2 billion working capital adjustment, that's essentially the price reduction, just before negotiations ended. According to one person closely familiar with the conversations, Zaslav was so adamant that AT&T CEO John Stankey gave him a better accounting treatment in Discovery's acquisition of Warner Media that he threatened to walk away from the deal, according to this person. Not playing around. Once the new management team at Warner Bros. Discovery got under the hood, they reduced the company's pre-tax profit projections, dropping EBITDA guidance for 2023 from $14 billion to $12 billion plus. So EBITDA again it's not net income. It shows usable cash flow before deductions for things like taxes and depreciation, which is it gets a little complicated. So, and again, I'm not your tax accountant, so but let's just say it's $2 billion less free money that they have to work with for 1 year, thanks to bad projections from Warner Bros. Discovery. I'm sure they're not happy about that. Bad projections from AT&T. A looming recession, rising debt costs, inflation, a declining ad market, increased competition, and the view on Wall Street that North American subscriber growth at Netflix has hit a wall, which it has, are all making the gargantuan task of managing Warner Bros. Discovery even harder. New management find themselves with significantly less financial wiggle room than in April when the deal closed. Absolutely true. Investors, along with employees close to retirement, are taking a deep breath. On April 1st, Warner Bros. Discovery's ticker's first day of trading, the stock closed at $24.62. On Wednesday of last week, it closed at $12.22. That isn't good. Also, the S&P has had its worst. The S&P, meaning the stock market in general, is doing horrible right now, very badly. So that's not helping their stock. As the company works out how to wring $3 billion in synergies from its units, so they're going to have $3 billion saved, management has axed most of HBO Max's non-scripted division and TBS TNT's scripted teams, and there are questions about how the company will handle CNN's original documentaries and series led by Amy Entelis. So we covered a lot of these layoffs also in the playlist, you can see. I'll put the link to the playlist for sure in the description below. Now, also on these $3 billion in savings, okay, we'll cover this in another video, but most of those savings will come from not having to spend on additional content. So, for example, Zaslav was explaining in another article how they plan to spend $600 to $800 million promoting Discovery Plus. And HBO Max had planned to spend $1 billion promoting HBO Max, the separate streaming services. Now they can spend less because they've got the combined service that they're going to be doing. So they can promote less, and they'll have some efficiencies from that. And additionally, hiring additional engineers. They were going to hire a lot of additional engineers for Discovery Plus. They found they had like 1,000 extra engineers because of HBO Max. So a lot of the talent that they needed to hire, they did not need to hire. And of course, some of the infrastructure for both of the streaming services, they can share the technologies and improvements and things like that, and as well as share customer bases. So it's a lot of not having to spend on, and then also getting rid of things they obviously don't need. So that's another whole conversation. MoffettNathanson analyst, that's financial analyst, Robert Fishman crystallized the daunting task ahead for Zaslav and Warner Bros. Discovery in his August 5th report, Reality First, Dreams Second. Noting the risk of a steeper decline in cable revenues before streaming can hit profitability in 2025, Fishman wrote, "We remain focused on how Warner Bros. Discovery will prioritize investing in direct-to-consumer content without hurting its linear networks portfolio, especially as it relates to its sports rights. Most importantly, NBA going forward." The consensus in Hollywood hates David Zaslav right now because of this, because show business, not show friends. Even things like financing development budgets. You know, if you have some friends over at a studio, they could give you, $1 million, $5 million a year, and just like, here's money because we have a producing relationship and you can spend it any which way you want, and sort of a first look deal as well. Like, we could just throw money around. They know there is zero chance of that kind of thing happening anymore. They will finance whatever they have to finance to produce excellent scripted content, but they are not throwing money around just to maintain some relationships. That's not going to happen. So here's Hollywood. The consensus in Hollywood is that everybody seems to think that they're in over their heads. Oh, yeah. I don't know why they'd say a thing like that. They're very accomplished at this. The Discovery team is very accomplished. The honeymoon was short-lived, said one senior Hollywood insider. Fundamentally, there are two ways out of the problem. Make hits with great taste. The other is to cut the hell out of everything. Well, they're going to cut the hell out of everything. This goes to exactly what I just described is, no, there isn't going to be money being thrown all over the place, which means you're going to have to produce stuff. Your Hollywood people are going to have to produce stuff that people actually want, and it's going to have to be competitive, or they're not going to do it. Zaslav and CFO Gunnar Weidenfeld are looking out to 2023 when company layoffs will be largely finished. Around 100 ad sales and support staff were laid off last week. There's going to be a lot more laid off. And the planned combination of HBO Max and Discovery Plus into a single super app can come to fruition. That is a big challenge. They're up for it. But before things get better, Zaslav and his team have a host of difficult tasks ahead. Layoffs, leadership moves, and questions about a future sale. When the deal closed, Zaslav and the team thought they'd be integrating two companies. It turns out there are five, housing some 40,000 employees globally. Warner Brothers, HBO Max, the Turner Entertainment Channel business, CNN, and Discovery. Now, there's actually not a big chance that Zaslav and his team wasn't aware of the operations when they looked at the business. But as you dig into these things, it turns out to be more complicated than they thought. So, okay, that I'll buy, but they knew that they were far-flung operations. If they're going to merge into a company and they're going to be responsible for managing it, obviously they're going to ask, one of the questions they're going to ask is, okay, how many employees do you have and where are they located throughout the world? Just so we kind of know. So yes, they're sharp enough that they would have asked that. We're looking at 22 accounts receivable systems across Warner Media and 13 accounts payable systems. There's very limited transparency, CFO Gunnar Weidenfeld said. What's he talking about? Accounts receivable is money that your company is owed by other companies. So if I sell you advertising, I'm going to send you a bill called an invoice, and you're going to pay it, hopefully. And that's an accounts receivable system to track the money that you are owed. Accounts payable tracks the money that you owe out to other vendors. There's very little transparency. So yes, Gunnar Weidenfeld said this. So one notable indicator of the complex integration, employees don't yet have a unified corporate email domain. The company is working towards that goal, according to a person inside of Warner Brothers Discovery. Gunnar Weidenfeld says, I almost view this as a Boeing 747 flying on one engine and we're firing up the other three. Weidenfeld's continued. There's so much opportunity. It doesn't happen overnight, though, right? And what he's talking about that is, so if they have 22 different accounts receivable systems and 13 accounts payable systems, it means that they're operating in a very divided and diffuse way. So they have like different multiple headquarters doing different accounting things and also doing things to different standards. And when Weidenfeld says they don't have transparency, it means you can't keep track of what's going on. And one of the things, especially with collecting money with accounts receivable, is you need to know what's going on, like on a day-to-day basis. If you have, especially if it's a lot of money, because a company, any company of significant size, has accounts receivable that they have to track to make sure they're getting paid. And when bills get late, they're less likely to get paid, which means you need to follow up immediately and work it out with whoever owes you the money. So in terms of reporting, also don't necessarily have current reporting. If you have multiple different systems, it gets complicated. But what is great is Weidenfeld is saying, hey, this is a great opportunity. I can't wait to clean up this whole mess here and incorporate it all into something really efficient. And, you know, operations, it can be fun if it's like, wow, we can accomplish so much more now because we have control of what the heck is going on. Also, you see obvious things that you can fix and get results just by cleaning things up. The cuts have come down hard these past few months, and there's a widespread expectation that Warner Brothers Discovery is ultimately being positioned for a sale to another company. No, it isn't. They have spent so many years building Discovery. Okay, Discovery is clearly taking over and consuming Warner Media. They're consuming it. That's the purpose of this. The reason that this deal was done is because AT&T had to get out of the ridiculous purchase they made of Warner Media. Do you know AT&T lost $50 billion just on the DirecTV deal, which has nothing to do with this deal? It's just AT&T went absolutely nuts, spending as much as $200 billion acquiring DirecTV and acquiring Warner Media, and they really didn't manage it well. But anyways, Discovery was its own really powerful thing that their whole team built. They have a whole philosophy behind it. Again, they're in more than 200 countries internationally with intellectual properties that, their shows, their whole libraries that they own, distributed in multiple ways. Like, no, they're not. If they wanted to sell Discovery, they could have just sold Discovery. They didn't go and merge with and get control of Warner Media just to flip the company to someone else at a loss. It doesn't make any sense. Moving along. Meanwhile, Warner Bros. Discovery has said it's in it for the long haul. Well, of course they are. We are building Warner Bros. Discovery for the long term, a company spokesman told Insider. A combination with Comcast's NBC Universal unit would require a heavy regulatory lift, given that both companies own large news organizations, Hollywood studios, and scores of cable channels. What's interesting, too, is when big mergers happen, you have to get permission from the UK, the EU. You have to get permission from China has to sign off on permissions for things because they do business in these countries. It's not like a little thing. Whether the talk is smoke or fire remains to be seen. For tax reasons related to Reverse Morris Trust that created the company, nothing can happen for at least another 18 months, but major M&A deals take at least a year to close. Yeah, it would take a long time. And also, just again, a reality check. Warner Bros. Discovery has $52 billion in debt, and they're spending about $2 billion a year on interest. They have more than enough money to pay their interest. They're good to go with that. That's fine. Comcast owns NBC Universal. How much debt do you think they have? Well, I'll tell you. $93 billion of their own debt as of June 30th. $93 billion. They also, because they're part of Comcast. Comcast is a successful cable company. They make money. They are profitable. But this is a very large debt for Comcast to manage as it is. Okay? Take a look at this article. Comcast's solid dividend payout, supported by free cash flow, but threatened by debt. So Comcast, yes, they're bringing money in. They're paying a dividend, which is just profit sharing annually to their stockholders, which keeps the value of their stock high. But they're also, they have to manage this debt. They have $4 billion a year in their own debt payments to make, with a $91 billion in debt. So if Comcast was to acquire or merge with Warner Bros. Discovery, they would need to still deal with the debt at Warner Bros. Discovery. If everything were even approved. It's not like a little thing. It's $50 billion, and it's a lot of debt. Okay, so is it going to happen? No. It makes no sense. What makes sense is they pay down the debt, they whip Warner Bros. Discovery into shape, they leverage the libraries. HBO Max was a relatively successful launch, it's considered, but the international was like almost nothing on HBO Max. They're going to be distributing HBO Max, as much of it as they can. They don't have all the international rights for some of the HBO series. I bet you they do for Game of Thrones. I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't. But they're going to push that through their international distribution they already have. Could you imagine? They already have financial success distributing 10 to 12 different branded cable channels internationally in over 200 countries. Now they're going to be able to take HBO Max and Turner and all those other assets and try to push them out through those relationships that they already have in place. Because Warner Media was trying to set this up, but it's like, it's been in place with the Discovery for like more than 20 years. It's like, well, not all of the countries are in place for 20 years. The point is, they've been doing this for years and years and years. It's a very good fit to put Warner Media under the control of the management team at Discovery. This is why he wound up in control of this thing, is they wanted him and his management team for Warner Media. A bi-coastal boss who says it's show business, not show friends. CEO, that's where I got the title from. CEO Zaslav has established a home base in LA after buying the mansion of Robert Evans, the film producer known for The Godfather. Great movie. And is said to be in rebuild mode, currently fixing the pool, according to one Hollywood source. That's important to know. He's been spending much of his time on Hollywood issues, including finding a new boss for DC Comics after talks with IT director Dan Lin broke down. We covered that. Warner Bros. Discovery has outlined a 10-year plan aimed at catapulting DC into the same film leagues as Disney's Marvel. Former Warner Bros. And Discovery movie czar Alan Horn, who also joined Warner Bros. Discovery in July as a consultant, is working closely on film strategy with studio chiefs Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy, who took over from Tony Emmerich in June. Sequels to Aquaman and Shazam recently saw their release dates moved back. One person familiar with conversations at the company said sales staff are hoping that Zaslav continues to devote time to New York headquarters, where the enduring profit center of the company, the linear cable, which is just regular cable channels, entertainment networks are based. One very hands-on in cable, Zaslav has shifted those responsibilities to Kathleen Finch, Chairman Chief Content Officer of the U.S. Networks Group. Commenting on the tough decision-making that has led Warner Bros. Discovery to axe a host of creative projects from Batgirl to Chad. Chad. That's one of the series that was like, never mind. It was like, okay, no, we're not going to spend millions of dollars producing Chad. As well as sell a majority stake in broadcast network CW to station's owner, Nexstar Media Group. B of A securities analyst Jessica Reif Ehrlich told Insider that the Warner management team have tough skin and are making hard decisions. Yeah, they are tough. Quote, I always love David's quote, this is show business, not show friends. We should start to see improvements as they realign the business, of course, she added. Which is what we covered in this, taking out the garbage. The analysts are saying, like, yeah, it looks ugly because they're firing people. They're writing off huge investments in content, like saying, we don't need this $1 billion in content. They burned $1 billion in content so far. I mean, they're going to burn probably more content. I did a video on that. $1 billion in woke TV shows. I mean, just stuff. Some of it was woke. Some of it was just stuff that they didn't need. So, you see this mess up front, but it's like, once the mess is cleared out, people are going to see there's going to be results. Noting that an app with news, sports, and film will be a huge growth driver for the newly formed company. Yeah, they're going to put together a really powerful app. Integrating HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Already Wall Street is pressing Warner Bros. Discovery when the super app will launch. The plan is to put HBO Max and Discovery Plus and then later CNN and sports together for a streaming service to launch by next summer, which would be 2023, with the tech stack under Discovery Plus to take precedence. That's a tricky job that must be executed without any disruption to the user interface, or the company risks losing subscribers. There are questions about how to brand the combined service and how to set its price point. HBO Max without ads costs $15 per month, while Discovery Plus's ad-free tier is $7. The whole idea is that you could take an entire value chain of multiple exploitation windows into one and then sell it at the lowest possible price point. Probably wasn't a very sustainable strategy, Wiedenfeld's noted at Goldman Sachs investor conference in early September. I do think there's more pricing opportunity over time as everybody realizes that content offerings and price point are a little out of whack here. So what Wiedenfeld is saying is there's a lot of ways they sell their content. For example, Discovery used to sell 18-month-old content that they were kind of done exploiting on the Discovery networks to Netflix for licensing fees. And they would do that to make money. They're very aware of leveraging content and selling it to multiple places. Finding a center lane for CNN. CNN's CEO Chris Licht has been subject to significant negative scrutiny over his attempt to shift CNN's coverage and tone down the opining, spurring a rash of delete CNN posts on Twitter, hashtag, with some observers still debating about whether Warner Bros. Discovery powerful libertarian shareholder John Malone has influenced decisions to axe talent like Brian Stelter. Yes, because John Malone has publicly... Look, There would be no CNN if it wasn't for John Malone. There would be no Fox News if it wasn't for John Malone. Because John Malone is an old school godfather of cable. And he saved CNN when Ted Turner was in big problems and got cash invested in CNN. And he started up the Fox News Network when Rupert Murdoch called him and said, hey, I want to do a news channel. He was like, okay, fine, but it's got to be more to the right because CNN was centrist and, much more back then. And whatever, they made a deal. That John Malone's all about deals. Company insiders are also wondering whether the network can withstand a ratings dip as it recalibrates to seek a center lane. Advertisers may say they want adjacency to less contentious content, but they also want viewers. Say more leftist stuff. It's like, sorry, a news network is going to wind up being a news network or it's not going to exist. The senior Hollywood insider called recent shifts to the morning show and evening lineup, shuffling top talent, including Don Lemon and Alison Camerata and Jake Tapper, moving pieces around the board on Lick's part as opposed to the broader strategic revisioning that has been touted for the network. Staff have griped that they feel like sitting ducks, not knowing who'll be laid off next. It's like, yeah, you better be careful. It's not about what your opinion is anymore. It's show business, not show friends. You're not there because you guys are friends. You're there to produce good content and be useful for the brand. Hollywood headaches over talent. While Wall Street has been cheering the cost cutting, some in Hollywood have been watching this in shock as Warner Brothers canceled projects and scrutinized existing deals. Dune producer Legendary, now backed by private equity firm Apollo, just a major investor, is all but certain to depart Warner. The Ankler first reported that Legendary was looking beyond Warner Brothers Discovery as their pact ends. That's a negotiating tactic to get a better deal. It's not going to work. Whatever is lucrative, they're going to do. Whatever is not lucrative, they're not going to do at Warner Brothers Discovery. That's just it. And as a director-producer, J.J. Abrams' $500 million deal, I will say, I had no idea it was that big. $500 million deal with Warner's winds down. One film executive outside Warner Brothers Discovery suggested he's likely to end up at Paramount, though the source inside Warner Brothers Discovery said conversations with Abrams have continued. This same film executive said that hiring Horn to work with DeLuca and Abedy is a win. Talent agents are big fans of the pair, who brought up multiple projects from their previous perch at MGM, because they bought projects, and have already signed the Batman director Matt Reeves to a new first look deal. But finding a Kevin Feige type to run DC has been a headache, and the job description has been changing, the exec said. The Warner Bros. Discovery insider said there isn't a rush to hire a new chief and that the company will continue to meet people. The multiple public breakdowns of the Flash star Ezra Miller, documented by Insider, have created another headache for DC. But Zaslav seems cool about it. He's like, all right, Ezra's fine. I would want to have a psychiatric evaluation on Ezra if he was important to me as my actor and my person representing Flash. But basically the film's, is it pretty much done? That's like, what are they going to do with it now? As long as he doesn't kill anybody, then no problemo. So far, Warner Bros. Discovery isn't putting any of its units up for sale and is focused on making its content investment work across its multiple platforms. This is what they've always done. They have a team at Discovery that's done this. They take their content and they push it across multiple platforms. And there are more and more and more platforms coming out, meaning streaming services, free services that are advertising supported, multiple cable channels. Now you could see, potentially some of Discovery's documentaries, like with limited theatrical releases. Warner Brothers has amazing distribution internationally, U.S. and internationally, for film. So they're going to have so many opportunities. Wiedenfels even told the Goldman Sachs crowd that he's upbeat about the future of cable networks. Under the ownership of AT&T, Warner Media's financials were buried in its parents' spreadsheets and its financials. Now, as a pure-play entertainment company, Warner Brothers Discovery's assets and liabilities, we have them here, are an open book. Every move will be scrutinized, and Zaslav's balancing act will be performed for all to see. Quote, "It's not easy," said one senior-level competitor. "It could work, but it's certainly not assured." Yeah, nothing's assured. I will tell you, though, it's going to work. They're going to have problems, but I'm very impressed with how dedicated these guys are to being creative about business, to being focused on honoring the brands they have, respecting their consumers, because they know the brands only have value if the brands deliver for the consumers. And like with cable, I have like 5 or 6 channels that I watch, if that many, with cable. And, it's almost every day. And I'm not, if I don't like something, you don't go back to it. You lose them forever. So you're not going to see a Warner Brothers Discovery willing to mess around with their brands and send mixed messages to their consumers. They've never done it at Discovery. That's how they built the business they had. That's how they're in the position that now they control, this $80 billion enterprise value company, because of how they operate and how the entire team operates. So you're going to see good things come out of this company. And like we say, it's show business, not show friends. All right, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. You guys have been amazing with the subscriptions and the thumbs up and the sharing it on your social media, my videos. I really appreciate that too. And I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.